You've been brainwashed to believe that society can never change, that you cannot conquer the freedom you crave. Believe me, you can. And after you do, they'll deal with it. It's not your job to center their every need. And then my connection is right here. And I said, this poem relates to the book because in the society, the party brainwashed everyone to follow Big Brother and never have a thought in their head that's against the party or anything it stands for. This relates to the poem because the poem talks about how there is no such thing as freedom when brainwashed by a higher power. And this is exactly what takes place in the book too. People can't live freely due to the harsh punishment by the party, so therefore the brainwash is so bad that they can't have a life. The brainwash has been programmed to have a single thought, and that is solely for the betterment of the party.
Killed that.
This poem relates.
Who's going next?
In the sense that all of these citizens social.
Next we have Trey.
We don't have to read verbatim. Please talk.
Can I just read mine verbatim?
So it says right here. Fear follows us, fear stalks us, fear controls us. Fear is all we think, fear can be stopped, fear can go away, fear is an emotion, fear will be stopped by love. And then with my connection, I put the poem I believe that really shows how wisdom views fear. The poem explains how fear controls the victim and shapes the way they think, to every hesitation, to every flight. Fear constitutes our lives no matter how large or how small. Winston at first felt nothing but empty, but feared Big Brother in the society would punish him if he were to ever slip up. But after meeting Julia, everything has changed. He began to have individuality and to speak up against Big Brother and such like that, just because of having somebody in his life that he could walk through and face fear.
Dylan, go, Bussins. Dylan,
Go,
just go.
go, just go. Someone. Oh, I was reading mine. Yeah.
So I chose a poem called "The Pain of Injustice," and this relates to 1984 because in the poem it says, "But differences from the norm are not really accepted," and this is like in 1984 how anyone that goes like outside of the norm, they're like reported to the thought police, and they're taken to be reintegrated and basically tortured until they like succumb to the norms of the society, and how they like it's not accepted to be different from everyone else. You have to conform to everyone else.
So, I chose Dystopia by Rafael Emilio Diaz. I picked the quote, "We are the people you created, a generation going nowhere. We are the kids that you hated, brought up by fear sinking lower." That shows like how the period after the war started, that when everybody started to have kids, they started to bring them up as spies, and in the like kind of group where they manipulate kids, so that when they grow up to like teenagers and adults, that they report their parents, and they pretty much start off clean, the new society, and they take out all the older people who used to believe in like revolution stuff. That was the connection.
Double.
Okay, I'll go.
Just go, just go. You go next.
My poem is Locked Up. This poem relates to the book 1984 in the sense that all of these citizens living in Oceania are locked up, basically prisoners. The thing is, none of them really mind it. They're fine with continuing on with their lives, doing their everyday things. This is presented by this quote, "When the garb was black and white, I would have hated lockup, but the uniforms are alright." This shows how the citizens are brainwashed and simply oblivious.
Good job.
Okay, so my poem is pretty much just talking about how this girl is being tortured and she's like trapped inside of this society. And I said this relates back to the poem in a way that the narrator of the poem is trapped and they don't know how to escape even though they keep trying. They have so much faith in escaping this crazy mousetrap, but they keep trying because they can't be a failure to themselves due to the society that's already failing them. And I said that relates it back to Winston, to where like when he gets tortured and stuff, because when he gets turned in by Mr. Carrington, and then when he goes into room 101 and he gets tortured, and he just keeps like saying that like he doesn't believe in what they believe in, and then afterwards he just says that he does believe in what they believe in so he can escape. And yes.
And yes.
Thank you.
My poem closely relates to 1984 because they both explore the topic of surveillance. The poem is from the point of view of a dictator who has full control over his people, and the speaker talks of various ways that he can hear and see anything anyone does through his various techniques of surveillance. And that's similar to 1984 because Big Brother is portrayed as the dictator who uses telescreens and the thought police to monitor anything anyone's doing. There's a line in the poem that states, "to spread fear among vigilant citizens." This line kind of relates to 1984 when, on page 1, when it says Big Brother is watching you, because both lines are intended at like striking fear into the people so they don't do anything that goes against the government. So both sources that I have here use the topic of surveillance.
Anyone? Anyone?
Okay, my poem is about like not having freedom in a world and being like having to hide your emotions and stuff. And this connects to 1984 because in their society, Big Brother kind of controls everything they do, and they don't really have their own like way to express themselves. And a quote from the poem is, "Free from the dream of freedom, love disguised as lies, ignorance hides us from hating our entire life." Basically saying like, and this is connected to 1984 because they don't like have any way of just like expressing themselves, and they have to like live in like a boring life.
In my poem, it's called The Caged Bird. It says, "The bird stalks down his narrow cage, can seldom see through the bars of his rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied." This relates to the book because Winston's emotions are kind of like tied down, like he's not allowed to feel anything, and it shows the theme of repression.
My poem is called Trapped Inside, and this poem repeatedly repeats about this lady feeling trapped and how she can't, inside her dreams she can feel anything, but outside she can't feel anything, and basically feels trapped. So I said this poem relates to 1984 with the connection of feelings of being trapped, and that the citizens live in a totalitarian world. In the poem, the author feels lost in an entangled world. It goes with Winston because no matter what he does, he will get caught and he can't really express himself, and he's trapped.
poem is called Welcome to the State, and it relates to the book how the government is totalitarianistic. So this poem is talking about how no one has emotions or values, and they're all the same because their life was taken by the totalitarian government. And this relates to the book because the party tortures those who aren't loyal to Big Brother or the party until they claim their loyalty. And I use the quote, "Who controls the past controls the future." And it was repeated by Winston, like obediently. So he was basically following what O'Brien was wanting him to do. And then this quote relates to line 12 to 15 in the poem, and it explains how no matter how much they fight, the oppressor will break them down until they can brainwash them.
The poem I chose is called The Rebellious One. It expresses the idea of resistance and rebellion, which is also present in 1984. The author of the poem says that they resist the things you see, meaning when you are rebellious, you don't care what others think or feel about you. These types of people want nothing more than freedom, which is very similar to Winston. This relates to the book because the people of Oceania face severe oppression from their government, and Winston doesn't agree with the party, so he starts to come up with rebellious thoughts. He then engages in an illegal relationship with a girl named Julia, which strictly shows his rebellion against the party.
Well spoken.
That was the goal.
Alright, I chose a poem called Dystopia, and it shares the theme of the lack of individuality. And this connects to 1984 because it shows how everybody is blended and everybody's just one collective, that's just one massive group. And there's no individualism, it's just the one mass, besides obviously like the brotherhood and that.
Alright, so the poem that I got was "What is the reader to make of this?" And it goes with 1984 by showing like the symbolism of hope, but it's actually represented as false hope through this line, the same blunt archives loom, but it all ends up in ash. So it kind of, all hope that they have, it still ends up as a false hope. So.
Hey, good job, Brian.
You wanna go next?
No, we're going in like an order, so I'll just wait.
You should go next.
No, I'll just wait.
Want me to go or do you want me
No, I don't, my time is extended, so I don't.
Okay, the poem that I chose is called Only Breath, and it's kind of about the person being the same as everybody else, and he doesn't define himself with any labels. And so he doesn't define himself by any religion, culture, place, or origin, and he says, "My place is placeless and a trace of the traceless." And that relates to 1984 because all the people in Oceania don't have labels. They're kind of all just like the same way they're supposed to be. That's what their goal is. And the traceless is kind of like whenever they get caught with thought crime, they get removed from society and everything's erased and they're just forgotten and their existence is denied.
Alright, so I chose the poem Night Night by Josiah Decker, and I'm gonna read a part of it. So it says, "As I awake, I'm perfectly content, for I don't remember what goes on in my sick head. The torturous and murderous as my imagination cooks up. I'll go about my day, and when I die, close my eyes tonight. Even God couldn't save my tortured soul. Mental torture cuts deep, no blood, no bruise, just pain and anguish. Mental torture, how sweet. Oh, how my imagination just loves to kill me." I said this relates to the book because O'Brien is drilling party mantra and logic into Winston's brain, and he completely rewires Winston's brain to think in the perfect way that the party needs him to think. And I said physical torture is bad, yes, but it is how they de-individualize and humiliate Winston that holds the power in O'Brien's techniques.
Woo.
was Totalitarianism by Sahil Mamdani. And in this poem, the oppression is the main focus. Domination, war, corruption, and anger are described as something normal that occurs through the regular days. Comparing it with 1984, the psychological, technological, physical, and social dangers of totalitarianism shaped the human thought. And then my quote was, "As the echoes of death crushed their fun, their minds could not see how it was done. For they were mere souls fighting for a cause unknown, for only a politician's will." And this highlights the brainwash of the people by the government.
The name of my poem was A Lost on Humanity, and it connects to 1984 because it depicts like the dystopian environment of the story, and it shows how like they go through the same routine, and like everyone has to wear the same emotions and act the same way, and anybody who demonstrates any like individualism, they're kind of like punished for it. And the quote from the poem says, "Emotions hidden low, fake smiles given, that is how we have come to grow." So it kind of relates to it because like over time, since Big Brother's like in control and the party has certain standards for the citizens, they all have to act a certain way, and they all have to wear like the same mask and emotions, and anybody else who gives like the slightest difference is punished. And this was seen like whenever Winston was put into room 101, and he was mentally and physically tortured just so Brian can reinstate him to be like the perfect citizen and not rebel anymore.
Buddy,
Were you
you're
going?
still in order, yeah.
Alright, well, I mean, we're in the same line. Like,
Oh, no, it's fine.
no, it's all
Alright, so my poem is The Voice by Shel Silverstein, and it's pretty short, so I can read it. And it says, "There's a voice inside of you that whispers all day long. I feel that this is right for me. I know this is wrong. No teacher, preacher, parent, friend, or wise man can decide what's right for you. Just listen to the voice that speaks inside." This kind of relates to 1984's theme of like surveillance and like never having a source of privacy. I feel like it also kind of represents how even though you're a citizen that's conformed to their society, that you can still have your own thoughts, and like that's why you end up getting tortured and reinstated into society, because you've already broken the rule, because you know that there is a like technically a rule or authority. So it gives like a source of awareness.
oh boy.
I didn't even write Nathan, bro. I said that.
Alright, so my poem's by R.W. Burke. Don't know who that is, don't know the name of the poem. But a quote from it is, "Life without freedom, death, or our peril, subordinate mindset, oppressed from after a system that monitors where we all are. It knows where we're living, and it knows how we spend every day." I thought like the poem and 1984 both kind of talk about being watched constantly and constantly being surveilled, if that's even a thing. Yeah, they both have quotes about like loss of freedom and everything due to the government systems watching over you. Keep it short.
Okay, so my poem is called Dystopian Destruction, and a quote to it is, "The world is in the dead, awkward silence. Everyone looked at the aggressive brutality and cruel violence. They wondered to themselves how did they get here? Without even realizing there were people pulling their strings by a masquerade puppet." So this poem expresses what it is like to be in a dystopian society, see the society fall apart within their eyes, witness brutality and violence, and be a puppet under the control of the government, in which they are told what to do without the liberty to rebel against them. Also how they live in fear of just getting old and be nothing, making life nothing but bitterness. This is a reflection of the society in 1984 because they find themselves being manipulated and brainwashed by the society, fearing to express themselves, finding no alternative but to go on with the flow and obey with no true purpose to life.
The poem I chose is known as Trapped in a Prison by Uday. I don't know how to say that. The reason I picked this poem is because it relates to the emotion that Winston portrays in the book. One excerpt from the poem is, "I'm the only one to love, or am I the only one sentenced to hell?" This line can relate to Winston's life because it relates to his mental state of him being kind of indecisive because he's been let down so many times. Like he wants to love Julie, but he's like a little scared that she will like let him down, just like O'Brien did, and that's pretty much it.